Alright, welcome in everybody. Welcome to another video where I help you make more money as a telehealth business. Today we're talking about how telehealth clinics are printing money in 2026. A little bit of background on me. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you've already seen some of my videos, perhaps you already booked a call with our team, welcome back. It's a pleasure having you here. Just a little bit of background on me. My name is Peter. I'm actually talking to you from the mountains in Utah. And really, I've been in the telehealth space for about 4 years now. From marketing and consulting, helping existing telehealth brands to helping brand new entrepreneurs without a medical license or high earning medical professionals and solo practitioners start a profitable telehealth business. And the craziest thing is we initially started as a marketing and consulting company for brick and mortar. So I was consulting for aesthetic clinics, I was consulting for weight loss clinics, and I just started seeing a much higher success rate in my weight loss clients. And then we started having so much demand to do telehealth, which was completely new to me. 4 years ago, it really wasn't a thing. Nobody knew about peptides. Nobody knew about GLPs. Ozempic was pretty new at the time. And this is really how I got into it. And fast forward to today, we helped over 100 brand new entrepreneurs and doctors and CEOs start a profitable telehealth business. We helped over 150 existing brick and mortar and telehealth clinics scale. We've taken 15 clients to 7 figures and 1 client to 8 figures. And not only that, I practice what I preach. I own my own telehealth brand, Trivero. You can look it up online. And so I've really just been in the industry for a long time, and I know how this works. And I can tell you quite honestly, this is one of the best opportunities ever. This is not the last overhyped business model. This is not the latest gold rush. This is really a revolution that's happening in the healthcare space as we speak. And today I want to be breaking down exactly how these clinics are doing this. So it all originally started with COVID. Obviously, you couldn't go to a brick and mortar clinic anymore. Telehealth became a thing. Telehealth started taking place. A lot of patients started getting their prescription drugs and medications directly to the comfort of their home. And a lot of people thought that as COVID finished, it would all transition back to normal. But as we know, this is not the case, and it's not really what happened. And so the truth is, patients don't want to be driving 20, 30, 40 minutes to a physical location anymore. They've started understanding they can get their medications from the comfort of their home, and there's no need to drive. Therefore, what we've seen happening is a lot of brick and mortar businesses are dying, and I'll break down why in just a second. I'll tell you a story of one of our clients. His name is Adam. We took his business from a completely failing brick and mortar clinic doing $30,000 a month with machine debt, practitioners, staff, competitors, really you name it, to a very profitable telehealth business doing $200,000 a month with 55% profit margin. And so this leads me to my first point that I want to be making today, which is when you are selling brick and mortar, you are realistically looking at about 1,000 to 20,000 patients if you're lucky. If your clinic is in New York, if your clinic is in Miami, if your clinic is in Bellevue, which are all very profitable, good areas overall to have your clinic in, then maybe it's a little bit more than 20,000 people in your local area. But anyways, those 20,000 people are literally being oversold. You have competitors opening every single week in every corner that are marketing the same thing you're marketing at a little bit of a discount and are talking bad about your brick and mortar clinic to try and win your customers. And so this doesn't really happen with telehealth. And I know a lot of people think, well, if I'm doing telehealth now, I'm going from, selling to 1,000 people to selling to 300 million people. Yeah, that is true. And therefore you're selling to more companies. However, I don't know about you, but I would much rather sell to a very big market rather than trying to fight for 1,000 or 20,000 people to sell to. And then one of the biggest problems with brick and mortars that we've seen, really from taking some of them to 7 figures plus, is as you're growing and as you become the best in your local area, you start winning the market, you start getting all these patients. One of the biggest problems is that you're going to be running out of those 20,000 people you're currently marketing to. And therefore, what's going to happen is very simple. You're going to need to either add more treatments and take on more debt to try and make more money from every patient, or you open a brand new brick and mortar location. And this is a huge problem because brick and mortars typically have about 20 to 30% profit margins, if you're lucky, again. And if you scale and open multiple brick and mortar locations, now you need to hire managers, you need to train those managers, you need to make sure that when you're not there, your brick and mortar clinic is not completely falling down because of poor management and systems. And it's just not good. We've taken a pretty significant brick and mortar franchise to about 15 privately owned locations, and we helped them franchise at that point. And it was a mess. And that company in specific was just making about mid-seven figures. And I know it can seem like a lot, but if you've seen the news, there's a huge company called Medvi. I mean, not really huge because it's one person and their brother. And it took a $20,000 investment to a $400 million company in less than 2 years. And they are on track to do $1.8 billion in 2026. And so this goes to show that you don't need staff, you don't need complex marketing teams, you don't need machinery, you don't need practitioners on your team. If you're doing telehealth, you can do this by yourself, realistically, like we did with our client Adam. He doesn't need staff anymore, he doesn't need machines, he doesn't need rent. You literally do not need any of that. And so a lot of people don't realize how big the market is and how big this is becoming. They think it's the latest gold rush. Well, it's not. This is literally the latest revolution that's happening in healthcare as we speak. And so you're looking at about 300 million people, 300 million Americans that you can sell to. And out of those, about 77% are adults, fully grown, they qualify for the medication. About 77% are going to be good fits because 77% of the population in the United States is either overweight or obese, and therefore would qualify for peptides and treatments like GLP-1 medications that can help them slim down their current body fat and weight. And of those, about 2% are not going to be qualified because they have cancer, thyroid cancer, diabetes type 1, you name it, any disqualifying diseases that could cause a side effect when taking one of those medications. So realistically, you can sell to about 180 million people just in the United States. And to be clear, there's a lot of companies that are already growing past that. They're already selling to Puerto Rico and Latin America and worldwide and Europe. But if we're just considering the United States, you have 180 million people, of which about 50% are going to be males and 50% are going to be females. And so if your clinic only focuses on one of the two, you're still looking at about 90 million people that you can sell to. And so before we go into the saturation of the industry, I want to be talking about regulations and everything that's happening right now. Yes, you have all those companies making so much money, and they literally do not have any staff. They're just sales and marketing organizations, because this is what the biggest telehealth companies are: sales and marketing organizations. You're outsourcing your operations, you're outsourcing your fulfillment to pharmacies and provider networks to take care of the patients for you. And so the vast majority of people that are skeptical when it comes to getting in this industry think that this industry is about to die, or there's a new regulation that's going to be coming out that's going to wipe everybody out. Well, that's what everybody has been talking about for the past 4 years. But to be honest, every single regulation, every single change that we've seen happening in the industry only made people realize that if they're trying to regulate this, it means that this is a huge opportunity. They try to do the same thing about AI. They tried regulating AI, and it has only gotten bigger. And this is the same thing when it comes to telehealth. And so it all started when Ozempic went onto the shortage list. People started realizing that, yes, it's good for insulin sensitivity, but it doesn't make you hungry anymore and you lose a lot of weight. And so this is when Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, that were producing branded medications, branded GLPs, couldn't keep up with the volume. And therefore, it went to the shortage list, and compounding pharmacies activated and started producing these compounds. And this is when it really started booming, because you go from selling a medication for $1,000 a month plus to selling it for $300 a month, $400 a month. And it made it all very, very big. And then about the next year, it went off the shortage list, and they started hard regulating this as much as possible. Branded medications tried sending a lot of lawsuits to most pharmacies and telehealth clinics, and to be fair, they lost most of them and didn't really do anything. The industry just kept going. We are at a point where the pharmacies and the provider networks that are backing you have so much money that they just do not care, and they also take on liability for you. Now, top 3 questions we get when starting your own telehealth brand are the followings. Number 1, how profitable is this? Number 2, how soon can I make my money back? Number 3, how sustainable is the business model overall? Is this like the latest gold rush, this crypto, or is this actually something I can keep doing for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years? So first of all, how profitable can I be? And what's the average profit margin? Typical profit margin for a brick and mortar business is about 20 to 30% if you're lucky and you don't have a lot of practitioners and you have a medical license and you do things yourself. Comparatively to telemedicine, you're looking at about 50 50 all the way up to 70% profit margins when structuring the team the right way. And besides the profit margin, you also need to consider the fact that this comes with rent, this comes with machinery that are $100,000 plus. This comes with employees you need to manage, employees that are going to get sick, employees that are going to want to have vacations and holidays. This comes with sales and marketing. That's it. You don't need to worry about operations. You don't need to worry about fulfillment, because the biggest telehealth organizations and the ones that are doing this the most profitable, healthiest way are just simply sales and marketing organizations, meaning they don't do fulfillment themselves. They all outsource it to a pharmacy and to a provider network, and they just focus their attention on the sales and the marketing, which are, funny enough, combined, because you're selling this as a drop shipping method rather than having consultations. And we'll also break this down in just a second. How soon can I make money? Well, if we're ever launching a client ourselves and helping them structure their telehealth business, from getting a pharmacy, from getting a network of doctors or website, their LLC and everything, that typically takes us 30 days to do. And they can typically expect their first patient within 2 weeks of working with us. So average client tends to make their money back within 2 to 3 months of working with us. So this is when you're gonna break even. So you can realistically expect to make money on day 40 or day 45 or starting your telehealth business, which is quite incredible. A lot of companies claim that they can help you do that and they have some sort of a startup plan. More often than not, it just comes down to be a consulting agreement where they just tell you, look, here's a pharmacy, here's a provider network, and they don't really provide a turnkey system or a business in a box solution where the company that's helping you is actually involved in your success and cares about it and gets incentivized that way. And number two, can do this and can speed this up for you massively because they have the right system. So a lot of companies are simply consulting agreements. They're just going to be referring you a bunch of companies. You're going to need to tie everything together. And I've seen that it typically takes 3 months, at best upwards of 6 to 9 months to start your own telehealth business. And then it typically takes you another 3 to 4 months to start seeing a patient. So it could take you 1 to 2 years to start seeing really break even on your investment with most companies. And yeah, how sustainable is this? Very sustainable, very, very sustainable. This is why not only we teach people how to do this, but we do this ourselves, so we practice what we preach, because this is a very, very good business model, and I highly believe so, because you're getting a patient for about $150 when you're running ads. This is your cost per acquisition, how much money you're spending. That patient typically pays you about $250 per month. You also got to consider cost per medication, which is about $50 a month, more or less. We're just, rounding everything just to make sure it makes sense and it's easy to understand. So this is a one-time right here. This is a one-time fee when it comes to the advertising. This is recurring and this is recurring. Okay, so the first month you are making about $50 in profit per patient. Not bad. Second month, you don't have to pay the cost per acquisition anymore. You've already given your money to advertising platforms and our systems to help you generate patients. And so now you only have the cost per medication and you're making $200 a month in pure profit, money you keep in your pocket. You don't need to give this to anybody. And the cool thing about this is the retention is between 6 to 12 months. Therefore, you're spending about $150 to acquire a patient. You're also making money in your first month, which is incredible. You're giving money to advertising platforms and you're getting that money back the same month. It's unbelievable. And right now you have a patient that's going to pay you, let's say a minimum for 5 months, the $200. Now you're making about $1,050. Profit. This is profit we're talking about from an initial $150 investment into advertising to generate that specific patient. So you have a 10x CAC to LTGP, which is lifetime gross profit. It means this is the ratio between your cost per acquisition and your lifetime gross profit per patient, which is amazing. And again, just to be clear, this is counting if a patient is going to stay for 6 months. Most patients need to lose about 50 to 60 pounds, and those medications typically help them lose about 5 to 7 pounds per month, statistically, from what we've seen. So most patients are actually going to need to stay on the medication for about 8 to 9 months a minimum just to drop that weight. Most people think, well, is this the latest overhyped business model? Well, not really. We've seen it to be a very profitable, very good business model over the last 4 years, and it's only growing. Every single year you have more companies making more money. And just to put this in perspective, to explain to you that this is not the latest gold rush, if you have 180 million people that need this, like we talked about before, and you have about 20,000 telehealth and brick and mortar facilities that are providing GLP medications to patients, now you're looking at about $9,000 per clinic. And so to break this down, if you had 9,000 patients paying you $250 a month, you would be making about $2.25 million in recurring revenue, which is, if you have a 50% plus profit margin, like I told you, most of our clients typically have a little bit more than that, but let's stay conservative. Right now, you're looking at about 1.1 million a month profit per clinic on average. Do you think the average clinic is making $1 million a month in profit? Obviously not. Most clinics that are not good at marketing typically have about 100 patients. And again, this is not that bad because they're making about $25,000 a month recurring, which is not that bad. And you also need to consider that most clinics have no clue on how to do marketing. Therefore, they're stuck at about 100 patients, which again, it's not that bad. This is what the average clinic tends to make. And so realistically, you're looking at over 100 million patients that are completely untapped and need to be sold to, and a very big majority of the patients that have been sold to have been sold to by the biggest companies like Hims and Hers. And those companies, it's no secret that they have a pretty broken fulfillment if you're doing a few $billion per year. Therefore, we've seen a lot of patients dropping from those companies and just going towards something that's a little bit more premium, a little bit more structured, and just a company that shows that they really care about that specific patient. So not only you're looking at about 100 million people that have to be sold, but the ones that have been sold, typically been sold by the biggest companies and end up dropping and working with you anyways. So that being said, hopefully this was useful to you. Hopefully now you understand how the dynamics of starting a telehealth business work. If you're looking to have us help get you up and running in 30 days or less and starting to generate patients so you can actually break even in 2 to 3 months of starting this, then click the link down below, book a call with one of our advisors or a company, and we'll be happy to talk to you and build a roadmap together on exactly how we can do this. And this is for entrepreneurs without a medical license, and it's also for any high earning medical professionals that are just tired of working in a brick and mortar clinic, in a private clinic, making somebody else rich, or doctors that are working at the hospital and are tired of 12, 14-hour work shifts and just really want to be replacing their income and getting more time, getting more freedom, and doing something they're actually fulfilled by. So that being said, been a pleasure meeting you. I'll see you in the next video.